I don't even eat cottage cheese. Hey guys, what's up? It's a Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite movies. And today, for my second review of the day, I'm going to be talking about the long-awaited film that no one is talking about, and this is Silent Friend by Hungarian filmmaker Enyedi Ildikó. So, earlier this year, before Cannes Film Festival, me and many other people were making predictions on what films will end up in competition. And a lot of people were saying that there's a great chance that Silent Friend will end up in competition. It didn't. And as it turns out, it ended up in Venice Film Festival. And so I really wanted this film to be good. Mostly because it stars Tony Leung, who is one of my favorite actors of all time, and seeing a Hong Kong actor, especially one of the greatest Hong Kong actors, play characters in American and European films just make me really happy. So I automatically rooted for this film. I really wanted this film to be good. And the premise seems really interesting. It's about humans and their relationships with trees. It's a slow burn environmental drama. And before watching this film, I was like, this could either be really boring or this could be a masterpiece or anything in between. Because the subject matter is so niche but yet so vague. And you can do so much with trees. You can make such a great story about trees and nature. One of my favorite animes of all time, Mushishi, is mostly about nature, and I absolutely love that aspect. And I want to see more films about nature, about plants and flowers. And so I was hyped for this movie. I was hyped. I don't know if it was going to be good, but I was hyped. And no, unfortunately, it was underwhelming. First of all, one thing about this film that really hooked me was the fact that this is actually three films. It's three storylines that also take place at the university campus that this film is set in. And these three storylines kind of have a common thread, and that is they all involve plants and research with plants. The unfortunate thing is that it's just not that interesting. This film is less about the natural world and more about the people inhabiting these natural worlds, and the people are just not as interesting. I really like the three storyline structure. I really love it when films have interesting structures with unrelated parts that kind of vaguely assemble together. And of course, immediately I think of Cloud Atlas, I think of The Beast, I even think of Sound of Falling, which I watched in Cannes earlier this year. But unfortunately, at least The Beast is more intertwined and more fun because it's all the same characters in multiple timelines. At least Sound of Falling had more poetry to it. At least Cloud Atlas is way more ambitious. This film is just pedestrian. So there are three storylines here. I think the biggest and the most important one is Tony Leung and Lea Seydoux. In the year 2021, I believe, or 2020, during the COVID lockdown, they were stuck on campus. Except Lea Seydoux only shows up for three scenes, and she's always on Zoom. So it's mostly Tony Leung. And I'm not gonna lie, Tony Leung is easily the best part of the entire film. He doesn't have a lot of lines, but he just acts and behaves like a very interesting, smart person. He behaves like someone who has a lot of history in the film. So every time he's on screen, I'm enjoying it. I also like the evil Dean character who's also trapped in the campus with him, who's always secretly watching him, secretly filming him, secretly following him. I thought that was kind of interesting and even kind of funny. And the way the film kind of turns into a buddy movie about hanging out is just really funny. I thought that, Silent Friend, as it turns out, Silent Friend is a movie about overcoming racism and being buddies with your enemies. The other two storylines. The first one is about early 1900s, a female student in a university facing sexism, surviving under patriarchy. And then the other storyline being about two lovers in the 1970s, sort of falling in love. It's an awkward blonde kid falling in love with this extroverted plant fanatic girl, of course. And both of these storylines are really toothless. The moment you watch the first scene of these two storylines, there's no mystery, there's no intrigue, there's no poetry, there's nothing. You can basically predict their entire story arc the moment you watch the first scene. And once in a while, you get one of these absurd scenes, like when in the 1970s, the blonde kid connected a potted flower to a gate with an electric cable, and the flower sends an electric signal to the gate to open the gate for the blonde kid. It's so freaking absurd. And I just wish the film would lean even harder into these supernatural elements. It's so stupid, might as well completely commit to it. There's also another scene in the Tony Leung storyline where a bunch of cables are cut off, but they're magically tied together, which is so funny and goofy. I just wish the movie commits to it. But yeah, I find the lack of conclusion for all the storylines kind of interesting, but I feel like it wasn't used to much effect. I kind of wish this film would be, when it comes to the humans of this film, I want the humans to feel small and meaningless in the greater comparison with plants and life and cosmos. I want to feel small, but I guess this film just does not touch on that at all. And at the end of the film, I'm just left with not a lot to chew on or think about, not a lot of beauty. Again, this also reminds me of the monologue in Vinland Saga Season 1, Episode 18. I wish this film would be that, but 2 hours long, but it's not. And another friend of mine compared this with Memoria, except Memoria, even though it's also about science and dreams, it's much more innate, it's much more personal, it's much more spiritual. This one just feels hollow. This one just feels lacking, unfortunately. I mean, there are a lot of great parts in the film. It's really well shot. Tony Leung's amazing. So I had a good amount of enjoyment out of it. But at the end of the day, Silent Friend kind of disappointed me. So I'm giving Silent Friend a strong 6 to a light 7 out of 10. I'm sorry to Ildiko Enyedi, whom I saw at the Q&A. I also saw Werner Herzog 2 days ago, and he's a freaking legend. He's amazing. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Silent Friend if you've seen it? Comments below, let me know, subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching.